Hi, everyone. I am Laura Pell. I am the career coach for the College of Arts and Sciences. And so if you are here and you're a math major or another major in the College of Arts and Sciences, I am your career coach. So it's nice to meet you. And we have kind of gathered these panelists today to kind of come here and give you some more advice about maybe going into a career related to math, or and to learn more about their opportunities that they have available and their kind of path to where they've gotten to where they are today. So I want to start us out. Thomas, Thomas is here from FRG. Thomas, you're a risk consultant, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about you and FRG.
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm a risk consultant. I'm also the director of a line of business called FRG Academy, and what that is, our main product or offering, if you will, is called NEAT, and that stands for New Employee Excellence Training. So that's really designed to take a recent college grad or someone transitioning careers that maybe hasn't done consulting or worked in banking or finance and get them all the skills that they would need to be successful as a consultant. So currently half my time is spent working on developing this line of business and recruiting, and then the other half is doing the actual traditional consulting. So I still have client projects that I'm working on.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. Really excited to hear more about you and FRG. Next, I want to introduce Sarah Bruet, who is here with Fast Enterprises. Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and Fast?
Yeah. So my name is Sarah. I'm a recruiter with Fast, and I've been with Fast for almost 10 years now, and have been coming to App State for 2-3 years. So fairly new, but definitely getting established and hoping to continue to meet more math students. As far as Fast goes, we're a software development and IT consulting company, and we're working solely with government agencies. So we have our own software product that these government agencies are purchasing. And in addition to the software product, they're also purchasing our consulting services. So we are actually going on site to work with our clients and replacing their old system with our new system. So the work that we're doing is a lot of consulting and working directly with the client, and then a ton of problem solving. So that's really how it relates to math, is being able to think outside the box and really think logically about they need this and how do we implement that into our software system, and then they're actually going in and configuring our existing code to make it work for the client. So within government, we work with them in tax, unemployment insurance, and motor vehicle and driver services. So it's, again, really what the government agencies are using to process all of that information that's coming in those 3 areas.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Really glad you're here. Our last but certainly not least panel is Audrey Holloman, who is here. Sorry, my dog's preparing for a walk in the background if you hear that. Audrey is here with IBM and is also a recent graduate from App State. So Audrey, tell us a little bit more about you and IBM.
Yeah, so I'm a data scientist with IBM, which is an international technology company, and I am focused in our area of hybrid cloud software technology. So it's honestly a mixture of like math skills, machine learning skills, working with client communication skills, and a bit of software engineering as well. It's like a happy medium, I like to think. And yeah, I'm a recent App State graduate. I graduated in 2019, so almost 2 years ago. I majored in math, concentrated in physics, and minored in statistics. So I'm happy to be here and meet some of you guys that are also in math, going through the same things that I just recently did.
Cool. Thanks so much, everybody. Really looking forward to learning more about you and yeah, hopefully building some connections here with our current students. So my first question for each of the panelists kind of comes from how you ended up in your current roles. And Sarah, you as a recruiter, how might someone come to end up in a role with FAST in your math related positions and your engineering positions? So yeah, I would love to know a little bit more background on how you kind of ended up where you are, maybe what you studied. Audrey, you mentioned math and physics is what you studied, but maybe how you figured out that that was something that you wanted to study and how it's kind of helped you get to where you are today.
Yeah, so I think for me in my career currently, both academic and industry, things have evolved kind of naturally based on two things. One being doing things that I'm good at and enjoy, which usually tie hand in hand, and second being trying new things and stepping a bit out of my comfort zone. So when I think back to high school when I was deciding what major to choose, I remember just choosing math and physics because I was good at it. And I remember my friend saying like, oh, it'll be too hard. And like, that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, I think. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Well, I did it and it was great. I was great at math, but turns out I hated physics. So you win some, you lose some, which is fine. I figured out that I like statistics. So I took on a stats minor and took a few data science and analytics courses. And I thought it was pretty cool. Then towards the end of my senior year, someone asked me if I wanted to go to a data science competition over the weekend. It was held at Duke University, and we competed against a bunch of different North Carolina schools. I was really hesitant to do that because it wasn't really my thing. I didn't want to present in front of a bunch of people. I didn't want to spend my weekend doing basically more schoolwork, but I decided to go, and it was honestly an amazing opportunity. I'm so glad I did it. I got to meet other data scientists in a similar field that they were interested in doing data scientists as a career as well. I learned new things, I met new people, and our team that I was on was actually one of the finalists, which was a big team or a big deal because App State was small school compared to Duke and NC State. So that was encouraging for someone that was new to the field. And that really just kind of was the turning point for me. And I was like, okay, like I can do this as a career. So that led me to take data science internships after graduating, and then finally into my position with IBM now. And I've been in my current role for a little over a year and a half. And now I'm actually about to transition into something new. So through the different projects I've worked on, I found that I enjoyed the more architectural design of just thinking of project solutions. So I'll be transitioning into something that I can apply math and my previous data science skills to just something new, which is kind of a bit scary for me. I actually just accepted that today. So it's a big turning point for me. And I'm definitely jumping out of my comfort zone, but I know that it will lead into new opportunities and just excel my career overall. So really just don't be afraid to try new things and also do what you're good at and you like and just find that mix.
I was muted, sorry. Thanks, Audrey. That was a great background on you, and congrats on your new role. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
So cool. It sounded like you kind of chose math because that's what you liked and the career fell into place, whereas maybe some others have chosen the career and decided math would be a good way to get there. So cool. Thanks for sharing. Thomas or Sarah, do you want to give some more background on what someone in your role or roles you have available, the background, what their background might look like?
Yeah, sure. A couple things I was thinking, Audrey actually already referred to, and one of those is definitely just follow what you're interested in and what you like doing, because then it's gonna, the more, you know, your job or your career aligns with your interest, the less it's gonna feel like work, right? And you're just gonna be motivated without having to like make yourself be motivated. But to keep, you know, I had a similar path in terms of organically just figuring out what I wanted. Mine was It sounds like a lot longer. So I dabbled with college and various jobs for about a decade after high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But through all that self-exploration, I finally honed in on that. I really enjoyed working with technology and computers, and then I was always good in math or science, even though for whatever reason I never just considered math out the gate. But basically that ended up, and I was entrepreneurial, so that led me to getting my bachelor's in business administration from Buffalo. And then, so I took what I liked, what I was good at, but then I also started doing some market research. And I just, at that time, I don't know if Monster is still a thing. I know like Dice was big, but it wasn't like it is now. But I just was punching in all the different names of potential jobs that I could have in different cities and just figuring out where I would get the most results back. And so that essentially just led me to North Carolina, where I ended up doing my degree in analytics. And since then, a little over 8 years ago now, I came to FRG, and my role has looked a lot different at various points in my career, depending on the project. But it's all the math and analytics I've learned up to this point. They just kind of like feed the next role. So I guess just do what you love, figure out what's needed, and do what you're good at. You can't really go wrong with that.
Thomas, that's great advice. Sarah.
Yeah. So coincidentally enough, I actually found my job with FAST through monster.com as well. And also not sure if it still exists or not, but I did take a poll of some students a while ago at a school and they had never heard of it. So don't think it's a thing. But as I'm really can say the exact same thing as Thomas and Audrey, about finding something that you like and really being open to what you're looking for. As far as FAST goes, we really don't look for certain majors. We do, but we're open to considering people from all majors. At App State, not only do we have success with computer science, being a software company, but we also have success with the engineering physics master's program, math students. And so for us, we are looking for a certain skill set, and we encourage, especially math students, to explore what they like about math. We do find a lot of math students, especially at career fairs, because we have math listed on our flyer of majors that we're looking for. And a lot of times I've talked to math students who don't necessarily know what they want to do with it or what career options are out there. And as far as a math student goes, you have a lot of opportunities. You have a lot of options, and the skills that you're learning are really, really valuable to a lot of companies and a lot of different industries. So figuring out what aspects of math that you like is important. You don't just have to go into grad school and research or actuarial science. There are so many more options at your disposal. So for us, I kind of touched in my opening that we do look for the problem solvers. And that's oftentimes where we find a great fit with math majors who are just looking to solve problems and looking to be creative. I know Audrey really mentioned the data science, and that's something we see with a lot of math majors. We don't do much with data science. And so there are a ton of different options out there. But again, I think Thomas and Audrey already hit it with really finding what you're passionate about and keeping your options open.
Thanks, Sarah. That makes it sound so approachable, I think. And yeah, I'm excited that all of you are here, and it's really cool to hear about your backgrounds, Audrey and Thomas, as well. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe we can zoom in a little bit on what your day-to-day kind of looks like. I know some students may be thinking about their job or their life after graduation, and maybe you have a good understanding of what a position does, but what does that day-to-day look like? So I would love to hear from y'all's perspective what that looks like for you. So yeah, Audrey, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your day?
Yeah, sure. Love to. So the things I do on a day-to-day kind of makes me laugh, this question, because it's so much. I do so many different things. It's just such a range of activities, which is actually something I really enjoy because I'm never bored. There's always something new to learn or help out with. My role is very technical, but it's also a client-facing role. So A lot of communication skills in general are involved. Clients from other companies that I work with are in a range of industries all over and come to us just asking for our help in knowledge in areas like data migration, machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud and software technologies, just so many different things. So understanding how their current environment is set up is something that we do. We work with them to try to find out just basically the problem they're trying to solve. A lot of the times that process involves us working with them to understand their overall industry and get that basic business knowledge. I've worked with clients in areas like e-commerce, financial technology services, healthcare, even clients in the federal government sector. So all of this client interaction involves a ton of personal and communication skills. And then besides from that, the more like math related things that I do is after the beginning stages of meeting with the client, once we establish certain goals, I go back and actually work on the project. So some days I spend coding different machine learning and statistical models in programming languages like Python or R. And then we create proof of technologies that incorporate some of the statistical models that I learned in school, as well as our internal software products at IBM. We find a happy mix between the two. Then I a lot of times display results in interactive dashboards using tools like Tableau and just create presentations to showcase the results to clients. And then in the end, if they like the kinds of things and capabilities that we show that our technology can do for them, they ideally purchase a license for that technology. But besides doing project work with clients, a lot of free time is available that I have to just use to learn. I usually just take courses. I mean, technology and trends and data science in general in the industry are just constantly changing. So I'm always reading blogs, taking online courses, and connecting with others to just learn about what they've been doing in their projects. I also spend some days just creatively thinking, whether that's contributing to new ideas or new products. Sometimes I think of patent ideas. I write technical blogs. I help others with their project work in general. So yeah, short answer is a lot of different things, and a lot of the times there's free time to kind of do as you please and just contribute overall to the company.
Well, thank you. That was really helpful, at least for me, in kind of getting a better idea of what your day-to-day looks like. And I'm really glad you pointed out the soft skills that you need to get through your day as well, the creativity, the communication, that all kind of help make your technical abilities work within your team. So yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Audrey. Thomas, could you tell us more about your day?
Sure. I'm starting to feel, I think we're going to have a lot of the same answers, right? Because we're all working in the client-facing consulting space, but I love it as well. It's definitely always something different. In our company, there's always opportunities to try out different things because we provide a wider range of services. So we do data migration, data profiling. We can build statistical models, implement statistical models, provide software testing, project management, all those different types of things. So there's a lot of different opportunities to try various things. I guess I'm just more focused on the consulting piece since that's more applicable, and that's what I started out doing right out of school. So initially I was working for a large financial institution doing data migration. So I got my SAS certifications and I was just coding up what we call ETL, moving data around for a large bank. Worked on that project for a while, and then I joined the business analytics team at FRG. And from that point, I was doing a lot of software testing of the solution that was implemented by FRG and SAS. We worked with SAS on a lot of these projects. So I was testing out those statistical models, also providing training to the client, so explaining to them how to use the software, certain features, and then also doing some documentation. So we built out a custom wiki to document various features of the system and how the data flows. So using open source tools, the same media wiki, the same one essentially Wikipedia is built on. So just getting my hands in a lot of different things and learning a lot of different skills. Analytics was very much math driven, but and I still needed that to be able to test the models, but then just getting involved with so much more. So it really depends on what type of project you're on and I guess what phase you're in. So it could be highly variable, but I guess that's what makes it interesting.
Gosh, it does not sound like y'all are bored, or
No.
yeah, not looking for things to do during the day.
Yeah, and I probably didn't want to reiterate everything, but yeah, but the trainings, obviously there's so much things we can learn, right? If we find ourselves what we call on the bench. So if there's if we're not directly working for a client at the moment, there's always a new thing we could pick up and do.
Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome.
Sarah, what's a day like at FAST?
Yeah. Again, I will not repeat everything that Audrey and Thomas said. It's very, very similar with regards to working with clients and those interpersonal skills and communication and problem solving, creativity. All of that is the same thing. Being a consulting company, with us and working for government agencies, most of our employees, if any of them, have never had tax experience or never filed their own taxes before, or know nothing about what it takes to actually get a driver's license beyond just going to the DMV and getting one. Have never lost their jobs, so don't know anything about unemployment. So a lot of time is spent working with the client and really understanding the business side of it. And they become tax experts or driver vehicle experts. I know I've personally helped out with a number of our driver vehicle rollouts, and I know way more about driver's license and what it takes to get it and the laws around it than I ever thought I would. So we're really learning about the business side. And from there, just working with the client, and I mentioned this before and everybody else has as well, but problem solving. We're replacing, in some cases, decades old systems for the government. And we have to figure out, is their process actually the process that it's supposed to be? Or is it the process because technology limitations 30 years ago made it that way? And can we help them to make their process more efficient? A lot of times when you come across clients who have been working on the same software system, doing the same thing for 20 or 30 years, it's really hard to get them to branch outside of their thought process. And so we really need to suggest other options and get them to think of, what if we did it this way? We could take some steps out, all being very respectful and tactful about respecting their process and what they're doing and their opinions. And then really the same thing, again, as Thomas and Audrey said, about some days it's going to be coding all day long. Other days it's going to be just sitting and thinking and trying to figure out what you actually want to do. Other days it's really collaborating with the team to figure out what needs to happen. There's a lot of opportunity to move around as well. We have our implementation consultants that are doing kind of the consulting and development. We've got our tech team members who are doing more the IT side, the conversion team members who are the experts in SQL who are converting all the data over. There's an opportunity to work on different subsets of the system. So maybe they're on returns in taxes, or they're on e-services, or they move to a completely different project and they're working on driver and vehicle services. So it really does depend on the project that they're on, the phase of the project, whether it's an active project or in rollout or in support and maintenance. And then obviously just what the project is doing as well. And each project has different policies, different ways of doing things. We are an international company as well. So we have clients in Europe and the Caribbean and New Zealand and Asia. And so just learning, a whole taxes, but also a whole different countries system and way of doing taxes as well. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and a lot of problem solving involved every day.
I'm noticing a theme that each of you are saying: learning, growing, taking courses, learning a new country system. Is that something that is happening as a team, or is it kind of on your own? This is your responsibility to learn this. And if so, is it supported by your company? Is, like Audrey, you mentioned the courses that you're taking. How do you find out about those?
Yeah, so for IBM, I would say that's like one of our biggest focuses, is just growing your skills in general. So I'm fairly certain almost every team in IBM has some sort of process of just growing their skills. But for my team in particular, we have like, I guess you could call learning journeys of particular courses that are recommended for us, and we're required to complete those just on our own time, while at the same time we're given so much extra time to just explore on our internal it's called like Your Learning. It's a bunch of courses and different subjects and areas maybe that you're not as familiar with, and they can give introductory courses, and you can receive badges and certificates to kind of display your knowledge. And that's when we can just explore on our own, and anything that we're interested in, just take a course. We have a bunch of different meetings you can enroll in where you can just listen to other people's presentations. I mean, it's just, there's constantly room to just learn overall.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing. Sarah, with FAST, if you are going onto a project that's in another country, what does the process look like for them and kind of getting where they need to be in order to work with those clients?
So it's really not much different than just if they're going to move from one state to another. I think I'm just kind of going back to your learning and how is that approached question too, is I think with math and most of the people that we're hiring in this industry are just naturally curious people that want to learn. And that's just seen, I think, in most employees within this industry, is that they're always driven to learn and they're always driven to do more. And that does just come naturally. And when we are moving people internationally, honestly, they probably know just as much about the tax system in like Finland as they do in, I don't know, Montana. So they're kind of starting from scratch with that regards. There's obviously some cultural and language differences that we have to deal with and work through, but that's part of the kind of adventurous spirit of Fasties, is really wanting to do that and wanting to break out of their comfort zone and wanting to be challenged, not only in the work that they do, but also just the environments that they're in.
Thanks, Sarah. I want to hear, so I'm kind of switch gears a little bit from what the day-to-day looks like, and think about if a student was interested in an opportunity with your company. Maybe you can speak from experience or experience being in interviews. What does an interview look like after you've applied and everything? What is that process looking like? Is there a portion of the interview that requires the candidates to kind of demonstrate their skills? Could you tell us a little bit more about that process?
So for me and for the position, data science in general with my company, IBM, I mean, that can vary so heavily dependent on the role you're interviewing for, or the team you're looking to go into, or the level that you're interviewing for as well. So I can only speak from my experience, but for me, I went through a set of 5 different interview steps for the role that I'm in now. It was first that initial phone screening with the recruiter, where we could get an introduction to the role and they could hear a little bit about myself. And the second step was kind of like a 2-part assessment that included simple personality questions, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you work in teams? And then another assessment that tested my mental agility and logical reasoning overall on how fast I can answer simple math questions, like what's the next number in the sequence if you're given a set of numbers. The third step was a video interview where I answered a lot of high-level questions related to just data science in general, like what's the difference between machine learning and AI. The last step in the process was on-site interviews. So this was pre-COVID, on-site in-person interviews. It lasted about half of the day. I got to meet with other candidates that were interviewing, hear presentations about the team and the company as a whole, And then we broke out into the interview part. The first was a technical interview where I met with a senior level data scientist and was given practical data science objectives with snips of code in Python, and was asked to describe what the code was doing and if there were lines that I would change. It was kind of like a more conversational technical interview, so it wasn't super intimidating because I was pretty nervous. I was also asked more specific questions like, can you explain what this analytical model does? And then the second part of that day was a soft skills based interview, because the position I was interviewing for was client facing. They wanted to make sure I could present difficult topics in a way that someone who was not as experienced in the field could understand. So I was asked to just present some of my past projects to an executive, and was just asked about my communication skills in general. So that kind of concluded the process for me, and it took about a week until I heard back from my recruiter and they decided to offer me the position. So yeah, there are some technical skills involved a lot of the times in interview processes, but it just really depends on where you're looking to interview at and the kind of skills they're looking for.
Thanks for sharing, Audrey. How did you go about preparing for that? Did they tell you ahead of time that this was what you should expect, or was it all kind of a surprise?
I had no idea. They told me to bring a laptop and to be familiar with Python in general, which honestly, I really wasn't that familiar with Python. In school, I worked a lot with R. So I just kind of I literally looked at YouTube videos and just did some research on Google and just kind of tried my best. And it worked out well, because some of the things that I couldn't really understand technically, as long as I was able to talk through them and explain like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I think it's this, they were like, okay, well, at least she can conceptualize different concepts. So that really helped. So just explain your best. If you don't understand, don't just say, I don't know, I don't care, So yeah.
Well, thank you. Sarah or Thomas, what does an interview process look like with y'all's companies?
I guess I'll step up. I think it's been a minute. Similar to that in terms of the main steps. And I went through something similar where I had 3 to 4 brief interviews while at the school I was at, and then I was brought on site for in-person interviews with 3 to 4 more different people, some more technical, some of them partners, basically people in various roles. Involved a quiz and looking at soft skills, technical skills, kind of the whole thing. So now what we're doing is we have pre-screened phone calls as well. So typically after somebody applies, we'll have one of the managers in our company reach out, because everyone here kind of like pitches in. Since we're a small company, we're only like 60 people. So one of the managers would reach out, do some pre-screens. If there's interest beyond that from our side, we would then have the candidate come in for a series of on-site interviews with various managers, and then also some tests like you mentioned. And that's something that we're looking to work on improving as well. So, there's an aptitude test, personality test, and just trying to get the full, understanding of, what the candidate brings to the table.
Thank you. Sarah, what does an interview look like for y'all?
Very similar. We usually start off with a phone screen, or, if we're meeting people at a career fair, that's usually just kind of the place where we're really making that first assessment, and those one-on-one conversations, or really anytime we're meeting people, we're thinking, can we hire this person? Can we see this person being a good fit? So always when you're interacting with employers, make sure you keep that in mind. We are making assessments from the beginning. And then those, initial conversations where 30 minutes, 45 minutes long, we are getting to know candidates, finding out what their interests are. That's a big thing too with interviews, is we want to make sure that this is a fit for you. If somebody comes in and says, I'm really passionate about cybersecurity or machine learning, we don't do anything with that. So we're going to question then when you're like, oh no, I could do consulting, that's fine. We're going to really greatly question what your interest lies. So trying to figure out what the fit is, and then also looking at just who you are as a person, and how well could you interact with clients, and how well can you communicate. So with the soft skills, and then getting a better idea of the technical skills as well. That will vary just depending upon how we meet people in the process that we're going through. But eventually at some point, candidates will do some like pseudocoding work where they'll actually have to work through some pseudocode problems. They'll do kind of a written logic test as well, like Audrey mentioned, kind of sequence and fun patterns and things, and then so a lot of whiteboard problems as well. So we're really testing not only on your technical abilities, not only on your communication and soft skills, also just those problem solving skills to see how well you can think through problems logically, and how well you do in situations like that that might be difficult to come up with an answer right away. And just keeping in mind that we're usually not always looking for the right answer, but we're really looking at how you handle the situation and how you approach those problems, and what your attitude is and what your behavior is for that as well.
Great, thank you. So Deanne, hop in here if you have any questions, but I'm on a roll here. So I have one more question, and then I want to open up the floor to questions from students. How can our students here, if they're interested in pursuing something available with your company or something similar to what you're doing, how can they best prepare during their time in their undergraduate career? How can they best prepare for a successful career in your field?
So if you're looking to go into the field of data science, then you're already starting off in a great spot. You're majoring in math. Data science also involves a lot of statistical concepts. So if you can try to fit some statistical classes in your schedule, or any classes like analytics, or anything related to data science or machine learning, try to find some spots to just fit that in. A lot of the interviews that I've gone to just all over, not only IBM, they always ask me, well, I see you have a major in math, but how does that actually fit into data science? Like, what classes did you take? What concepts did you learn? And I remember being like, oh, wow, I didn't think about this. So definitely think about that. Make sure you're interested in the classes though. But besides your technical degree that you guys are already pursuing, you'll probably need experience with a programming language like Python or R, which you may be introduced to in some of the classes in math. You will use those to build machine learning models and just display them using data visualization skills. It's an added bonus if you have experience working with large amounts of data and different kinds of data, like structured and unstructured data sources. Teamwork skills are needed. Your ability to communicate concepts and present on real-world applications is also important, that we've talked about. If you're looking to work with a company like IBM that's very involved with hybrid cloud computing, then basic knowledge of public and private cloud vendor infrastructure would be really helpful to know. But I certainly didn't know all of that. Not at all. I'm still learning that, so don't be freaked out. But I was able to emphasize on the skills that I was really good at, and then explain that I was willing to learn the skills that I wasn't as familiar with. Like, I definitely didn't know about hybrid cloud. I did not learn about that in school. So that's something, just think about the industry you're looking to go into, and try to learn some basic knowledge of it just when you go to interview or anything. A suggestion I would give is to explore in some of the areas that you're not as familiar with. Do some research and maybe take a few courses online. There's a lot of free ones that are available, and a lot of the times you'll receive a certificate or a badge at the end of it, and you can display that on your resume or your LinkedIn. You can just kind of pop it in there. Try to find internships, reach out to people that are already in the field and make connections. Ask them to mentor you and help answer your questions. Don't be afraid of that. I was kind of weirded out by that in the beginning, but now, like, I do that like a maniac. I just message people and ask for help and suggestions. But overall, don't be afraid to learn new things, meet new people, and try your best to show that you care about the position and the company.
That's great advice. Thanks, Audrey. Thomas, what about with FRG? How could what was my question? How can a
I
student?
was waiting for you to state it again for me.
Oh gosh, it's been a long day. How can a student best prepare for a career with FRG?
Right, yeah, so I guess I'll break it in a couple pieces, but a lot of it is echoing, what you are doing already. So you're doing that training, and some of the things that we look for is, aptitude or fit. So if you're, doing all your math homework and all your coursework and all that, you're really like learning how to learn. So that's like a real big piece of it. So the main thing is, you're building this foundation in school, and then all the specific details, can be learned through something like our NEAT program. But if you wanted to get a leg up per se, some of the things that one would learn in that program that coming in would actually help you would be general programming skills. Of course, solving, statistical math problems, because we do touch modeling and implement statistical models, but we do a lot of SAS, so SAS base or SAS advanced programming. We also deal with Python and Go a bunch. We pretty much exclusively on, there was one project we probably worked in Windows, but most of the implementations are all on Linux servers. So knowing how to work in Linux and navigating that operating system is definitely a good skill that you'll either learn sooner or later. And of course, the most important is having some foundation in financial risk. So there's an association called GARP, Global Association of Risk Professionals, and there's a lot of materials on there. There's some brand new courses you can sign up for, like if you have basically no knowledge, where you can learn the fundamentals of financial risk. So that would be how you would kind of come in with some of that knowledge as a leg up. But mostly it's a couple of things that I really think would help really be successful if you're trying to more of the soft skills to work on. Coming from school, a lot of times they have like perfect examples, where they give you the data set and the question, and they kind of like lay it out for you because they want to help facilitate the learning. But I would say coming onto a project in the real world that helps to be comfortable with like ambiguity and, being resourceful. So like figuring out how to get the information. And as Audrey said, ask lots of questions. So when it's not clear, contact your professor. Don't wait. Don't get stuck for, 12 hours, bang your head against the desk, collaborate with team members, that type of thing. So it's just learning as best you can while you're in school and doing as best you can. That's going to just put you on the right track to have all those skills, a good foundation for when you transition.
That's great advice. Thank you. I really like how you mentioned if you have questions, ask them. I feel like that's so key. And yeah, that's great advice. And everybody's here to help you. So, Sarah, how can a student best prepare for a career at FAST?
Obviously what's already been mentioned, and with FAST, we do look for well-rounded candidates for sure. So not just kind of part of the reason that we are hiring from multiple majors and don't really care of the major you come from. So exploring classes outside of your major and really making yourself a very strong candidate. So taking some of those classes that will improve on your communication skills, your technical writing skills, any of those classes that you can take that would improve you all as a whole. Also just getting involved in the community, getting involved in student organizations. Those are some really awesome opportunities to build some of those leadership experiences and get you comfortable working with different people from different areas. As far as FAST goes, we're written in visualbasic.net with most of our clients using SQL for their databases. So we do look for object-oriented programming. And I will go as far to say with math students, just knowing R or MATLAB or Python, like even those give people enough foundation to be able to work your way through object-oriented, work your way through VB.net. So just having a solid foundation of the logic behind how code works is really helpful. And then one thing that is a little bit of a pet peeve for me when I am talking to students is, by the time you're a senior, we expect you to have a general idea of what you want to do. So take this time to do that research and really figure out what path do you want to go into. And by the fact that you're here is awesome, because you are getting to hear different perspectives of what different careers could look like for your major. So it's great that you're here. Continue to talk to alumni, reach out to people in the companies that you're interested in to see if you can hear a little bit more about the roles that they're doing. Obviously, taking internships and shadowing programs are great, so you can see that. But for me, when I'm interviewing somebody and they say, I don't really know what I want, I just want to get my foot in the door, I've never done this before, so how do I know I'll like it if I've never done it? I understand that, but you've had how many years of college to get some exposure and to see if you like something or not. I'm realistic. I understand that just because you start working in a job doesn't mean that it's going to be what you absolutely love. But I do hope by this time as a senior, you've at least figured out a path or an area that you want to go into and start off with. Again, it might change, but try to figure out what you want now. So you can productively communicate that to employers. And maybe you want different things, but make sure that you know how to communicate that to employers. So do your research, get out and explore right now.
Yeah, that's great advice. While you have the opportunities available to you through your professors, through classes that you're taking, through internship opportunities, it's a great time to be figuring all of those questions out. Great advice, Sarah. So let's open up the floor. What questions do y'all have? We'll make sure we get answers for those. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat. We'll get to it.
I can go. Hi, I'm Omar. So I'm currently in statistical data analysis 1. So I'm finally getting this is my first time coding ever. I love it and I hate it, but I really love it. So the only reason I say I hate it is because, it's such a crazy, I'm an actuarial sciences student, and it's like just a crazy learning curve. And so right now we're using DataCamp, which is super helpful. Is there anything else that you all know, or any other type of software or something that you recommend for students to kind of get practice with that, or just get the system or get the software and just work on it? Well, Google is kind of a big thing too. I know, well, half of the class is just, hey, Google it. so yeah, is there anything else you guys and gals would recommend?
So I use DataCamp quite a bit at App. That was like my whole experience, and I loved it. There are some ways you can just Google it, yeah, and sometimes I still do that today, even for my job. I'm gonna admit it, and it helps. But if you just Google it and you don't actually think about what you're actually finding in the code when you Google it, you're not going to learn. So maybe Google it and make sure you understand what that code is doing, and really go through those DataCamp courses. Those honestly really helped me. I was terrible at programming in general. I still am not the best, to be honest. And I actually was like, I'm never going to do programming in my career ever. I said that like one of my second years of school and in one of my first statistical classes, and now I do that every day, and it's fine. It is a steep learning curve, but you'll get over it. Just try your best to understand them. There's other courses online that offer free classes similar to DataCamp called Coursera. I use that a lot now, even now, just take classes. But yeah, just try your best to understand. Go to your professor's office hours. I went to one of mine every day for 2 years, and I don't know if he remembers me, but he helped.
I think that's my biggest issue too, because I'm the type of person, and I'm with this the math, even if it's a subject I hate. My philosophy on education and a lot of things too is kind of why would I only want to know the broad concept? I have to know why. and
that's good.
And that's why I'm doing homework from 3 to 11 p.m. So that's why I say I hate it, but I love it at the same time. So
that's good. That's good. That's a good skill or quality to have. I was the same way. I had to understand.
Yeah.
Can I add to that briefly? I just wanted to mention, because, you know, I think we're like all learners here. So I've picked up Python when it came to FRG. I didn't do that in school, but with that and all the other trainings I've done, I think it's really important to get that like formal course training. So going through something like Data Camp, I haven't used that, but it sounds like, you know, the good thing about when you get the formal training is you understand like the full scope of everything you're working with. So you kind of understand then what types of things are available to you in that programming language, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to memorize them all at that point. And that goes to another point, and that's just knowing where to get that information when you need it. So being resourceful. So for me, I always like when I was learning Python, for instance, having my Python docs website there. So if I needed to look up a function or the syntax, it was there, but I didn't spend brain energy trying to remember exactly how it works, because in the real world at the end of the day, you don't want to at all do it when you're learning, but in real life, we will copy and paste a lot of those, you know, codes and look them up. But you really need to know how they work under the covers, right? To know really what you're copying and pasting. So really a mix of the formal training and then practicing those concepts if you can use them for like a real life course, you know, whether it's a project or example, or if it's just something you can, you know, do on your side to actually implement that code that you're learning, would be really how you're gonna learn it.
We have a great question in the chat about the work culture in your companies. Grant says, how would you say that work culture in tech and other STEM companies operates relative to your expectations? Seems like a lot of companies take their work culture to an extreme compared to in other fields.
I can start with this one. I think with FAST, I can speak to FAST, but I definitely can't speak to, you know, other tech companies in the industry. There's, you know, so many companies out there, and it's easy to get wrapped up in, I think, some really big tech companies that you see all the time. And you know, I think for FAST, in some regards, like, yep, it, you know, kind of fits along with those expectations that you'd see within the tech industry, but also no, completely different, because we are doing government consulting and we're working in government offices. So that automatically is going to give you a very different feel and a very different background, just because we don't have these big, beautiful offices that we're working in. We, again, are working in government offices and have to be very mindful of who our clients are. And we're not going to be, you know, very flashy with having really fun perks that our clients can't have and can't take a part of. So we're very mindful of that during the day and in working, but at the same time, we are a very close-knit group. We are relocating our employees every 2 to 3 years, and that's really big, and that's a lot to take on. And you're moving to locations that you maybe never been before, you don't know anybody there, so you are leaning on your coworkers for support. And so that's really where our culture is built from, because you're leaning on one another for the support and to get to know one another at work, and then also outside of work. So they're the people you lean to for dog sitting if you're going to go out of town, or helping you move, or whatever it is. So in some regards, I think it does kind of fit within that stereotype where we do some really fun after hours things and have some fun happy hours and go to Top Golf, and are really big into giving back to the community. And that's a huge aspect of what we do with FAST. But then again, when we're in the office, just making sure we are very mindful and respectful and tactful of the clients and the government agencies that we're working with.
Yeah, so I can't speak a lot to other companies as well. I guess from like a professional standpoint, because this was my first job after leaving my master's program. But we're a very small organization, so you know, your first day on the job, you might be, for example, building your desk or setting your laptop up, because we don't have an IT department of like 20,000 people to do it for you. But you're also going to be working on, you know, $100 million project for a $1 billion bank, or that actually would be a really small bank. So, you know, there's that very much where, you know, so we're humble. We're not going to say someone else is going to do this type of thing, but we're also involved with some really significant, important work. We're very flat. So a lot of our projects, we're a matrix organization, so you might have a different type of person you report to on a project, but you might have a different person you report to organizationally. So you could, for example, I was on the QA team, so I reported to my QA person, but I was on a project for a client out of Toronto, so I reported to that person for that project. So it's very dynamic in that sense, and our projects are very diverse. So right now, the team that I'm working with, we have folks in FRG on this project that were former chief data officers at banks, and then a couple folks that were right out of school, went through the NEET program, just graduated the NEET program, so they've only been out of school 2 years, and then some, mid and other senior level folks that have various consulting experiences. So it's a really, I love it. It's a cool culture. We're small. We don't have a super, fancy office. We're downtown Cary, but it's a lot different feel when we do get on a client site. We don't travel a ton as consulting, but when I do go to Toronto or New York City or wherever our client is, we're a little more buttoned up on site and get to do those activities. So the culture is very laid back, kind of in terms of dress and those types of formality things in our small office, but it kind of changes if we're on site.
Yeah, I'll just add that I always had the perception of tech in general being like you're at a cubicle, you're just coding away and just you're in the dark staring at a black screen, that kind of thing. That's how I felt tech in general was before going into tech. So it was really important for me to go into a role that involved a lot of collaboration and a lot of room to learn from others, where they would share their code, their ideas, just their knowledge in general. So I made sure to look for something that would involve that. That was like one of the main questions I asked about, because that's like the best way I've learned so far in my role is just from others and helping out, listening to their presentations, their past work, looking at their GitHub code on past projects. So I would say, from my understanding, I don't know about other companies, but at least at IBM, it's not like that. It's very open, agile. You're working with a lot of people, you're collaborating. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate all of our panelists for being here today. I'm looking at the time and I want to do a quick little plug. Thomas and Sarah are going to be here with us on Wednesday for the STEM Career Fair. I'm putting a link to that to register for that career fair in the chat. If you want to go to an information session to learn about their companies, or if you want to schedule a one-on-one with either of them or both of them to chat more about what opportunities could look like for y'all, please do that. They would love to see you there. And you can do all of that registration through Handshake using that link that I just put in the chat. So we would really love to see you there for the STEM Career Fair. And you'll see that it's like a 3-hour span across the day. You don't have to be there for 3 hours. You can pop in wherever you see fit, and yeah, it'll be a great opportunity. So join me in thanking our panelists for joining us. We really appreciate having each of you, and all of the advice you shared was awesome. So thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you, students, for coming. Go and connect with these folks on LinkedIn. Email them with a thanks for joining us today. Definitely keep this relationship going. And if you have any questions to follow up on today's, always reach out to us. And I'm sure our panelists would be happy to chat with you some more. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you so much, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.